Hey guys, Andy here. So usually when I do a Xiaomi phone, I talk about the kind of the history, not the history, but just kind of who they are, because people don't know. But I'm guessing if you're watching this video, you probably know who they are. So I won't go into that. What I will mention though, I think it's the first time I've reviewed a Xiaomi flagship, as in their upper end. The Xiaomi Mi Mix 3 cost me, well, it cost me $450 because I bought it on launch day. There was a special promo to get it £50 off. I assume it's gone back up to £500 now. And I don't think I've really spent more than kind of, I spent $270 on the Pocophone F1, but most of them are things like the Mi A2 Lite, the Redmi Note 5. I've done, those are the recent ones I've done. So I was quite interested to see, and the hardware on those is generally pretty good. So what hardware do you get if you spend £500? The answer is the Mi Mix 3. It's a bit of a fingerprint magnet on the back there, as you can see. But what I want to, actually, I'm going to go through first, actually, just real quickly, was what was in the box. Now, you may have watched the unboxing. World's biggest phone box, by the way. Probably better to show you on the camera up here. That's huge. What I didn't realise was because you get a wireless charger with it. So we're going to come inside. I'm going to get this bit out of the way. There's a little message from Lee Jun. Oh, why not, if the camera's focused on it. Get that out of the way. And we see it comes with a wireless charger, which, all honesty, I haven't used because I've got my... So there's a protective coat on, that's fine, I think. Because I've got my Huawei 18 watt, 15 watt, 15 watt, I think, wireless charger. So I've just used that. That is the one that comes in the box though, with a UK plug. I bought this from eBuyer. More about that near the end of the video. With a UK plug, which again is quite a new thing for sort of Xiaomi devices. Again, I've not unwrapped the USB Type-C charging cable because I have my own. And what I didn't realise, if I can get this out, that someone kind of pointed out to me in comments of the unboxing, it comes with a case, look. Case and a dongle, all sorts going on there. So, and that case actually feels really quite firm. So I've not tested the case. So I like that. I like that Xiaomi, even though it's £500, which is for a flagship, is quite cheap. They're including things like wireless chargers and cases. That's pretty impressive, really, I would say. So yeah, nicely boxed and packaged. Let's pop that aside and come back to the phone itself. Let's get a quick cloth to give it a bit of a... So it is a little bit of a fingerprint magnet on the back, as you saw, but otherwise I really like the colour. Ceramic, that's what it is, I think, because I sort of said in the first one, well, how does it, it's a weird look to it, and I'm sure it's because it's ceramic. I don't know, it's just a really nice blue. It's kind of a slightly pastel, slightly even dark. I don't know, it's a really nice blue. It's one of the nicer looking, for it being actually relatively plain, it's one of the nicer looking phones or backs of a phone that I can remember. So it is 218 grams. It's a bit heavier than most phones because of the sliding action, which I'm sure you already know about if you come in to watch this video. The front facing camera, as you can see, the screen goes rather up around the edges, good bit of cover, and the front facing camera is revealed by sliding it down. That's a bit of a clean as well, which is a very solid, satisfying action. And generally works very well. What I have found though, the screen is quite slippy, the back is quite slippy. So when you're trying to, I mean, I can do it, look, I can do it, don't get me wrong. And in fact, I'm doing it better now than I normally have done. There have been times, maybe I've just kind of, things are slightly tacky at the moment. There have been times I've struggled to open it, even then I've used two hands and I've struggled to kind of get the grip to open it. As I say, it's working perfectly now. I've got great grip, thanks. There is a rear mounted fingerprint sensor though on the back, which I would say is very quick, very reliable. Strangely, when I did the unboxing, face unlock just wasn't an option. Since then, it has been. So I don't know if actually I have to do it with this camera up here. So we're locked at the minute. I'm going to slide it down and we're unlocked. So you can use Face Unlock. It's just a little bit weird being in the slider there. There is, and I don't think I've got any notification at the moment, there is a tiny notification light in the top corner. It's tiny, it's like a little pin of an LED. So you do get flashing LED light when you've got notifications. I think it really does feel and look like a very nice device. I like more than I thought I would the full edge-to-edge screen. There is also, quite an important part of the design, an AI button. Can you see that? Which, let's just unlock to make sure, and then I'm going to press that once. Will it rain tomorrow?
There's a good chance of rain in Chipping Barnet.
Of course there is. You can also you can program that to do whatever you want. Well, not whatever you want, but different things. So I'm going to double press, and we see the torch comes on. So I like that. I really like the AI button. I'd love if more phones did that, actually, if I'm quite honest. The actual hardware. So it's got a Snapdragon 845, which is kind of old in some ways, and I sort of get an argument about this because it's the latest Snapdragon there is. What do you want them to do? They can't just magic up the next one. But at the same time, it was released, I don't know, 10 or 11 months ago, so kind of they're in a tough position, really. And to be fair, this phone was actually released, I think, back in October, but this was the global release, is the one that I've bought. It's got an octa-core processor, it's got an Adreno 630 GPU. This one has 6 gig of RAM and 128 gig of storage. You can get one with 256 gig of storage, and it says 10 gig of RAM. Personally, I think that's overkill. I know that OnePlus 6T have done the McLaren edition with 10 gig of RAM as well. I'm not convinced you need that. It just seems a bit excessive. There is no headphone jack. There is no micro SD slot either, but strangely there's dual SIM. Seems a little weird. They've not, as far as I can tell, it's not one of the ones where you can put in a micro SD card in the other slot. It just doesn't have a micro SD card slot. It does have NFC, which is great for using things like Google Pay. And there is a single speaker firing out of the bottom.
Right. How could I forget? How could you? The show that covers, you know, me and Patrick just talking. I try to make sure we talk about projectors.
So it's not a bad speaker. It scored 86.6 decibels in my test, which literally is middle of the pack. It's right there in the middle. The little graphic I've put up here isn't the whole thing, but I have taken that from the middle of the pack. But it's not actually that bad. So I listen to podcasts in the morning. I have my usual kettle test. Can I hear when the kettle's on? And I just about could. And actually it was generally sufficient when I wanted to listen to my podcast in the morning, or if I make phone calls, quite often I use a speaker, and it was okay. Yeah, definitely is better, and definitely single stereo front facing is better, but as speakers go, it's not too bad. Now the screen itself is a 6.39 inch 2340 by 1080, which is a 19.5 by 9 ratio, and it's about 403 pixels per inch. Generally, I would say it looks really good. Definitely no issues. You can tell it's not a budget screen. It is a very good AMOLED screen. There's no notch, as I mentioned, almost no bezels at all. I mean, there's a little bit of a bezel down the bottom there. Well, all the way around there's a little bit of a bezel. Surprisingly, it's only 85% screen to body ratio. That looks like a lot more than 85% to me, but that's what it says, so I believe it. And it does generally look really, really good. Really, very good. Strong colours, very clear, good brightness. In fact, the brightness was 760 lumens, which is pretty good actually. That's up with some of the decent phones. Again, this is a flagship, not just some budget device. It's all protected by Gorilla Glass 5. It does have, although you have to find it and turn it on, it does have an always on display. It has things like tap to wake, or give it a second, give it a lift to wake, which are all very, very reliable. Really quite pleased with those. The AOD, it's odd. So next to next to my Mate 20 Pro, that looks fine. But strangely, when the lights go down, so at night, the Huawei can dims a lot more, and the always on display of the Xiaomi is actually quite bright, to the fact that it does illuminate the room, and I can make my hand puppets over the screen and you see them on the ceiling. That to me is a bit bright. I don't quite know why they've not sort of included the brightness sensor to the always on display. That could do with fixing that. If we move on to the cameras, so on the back they're both 12 megapixel lenses there. Is that right? That is correct. One is a sort of regular, well, it says it's wide angle, but that's basically regular, f1.8 with optical image stabilization, which generally seem to work quite well in video. The other one is a 12 megapixel telephoto, but generally the images, they looked like they had strong colors, they were good detail. There was some odd lens flare, so there was a couple of photos where I kind of wondered, what's that weird? So on the picture of my bike, you can see some kind of odd lens flare that goes across the image top to bottom across the front wheel. I don't really notice that in any of the sort of camera phones that I've used. It happened a few other photos, just has some weird sort of lens flare basically where I wasn't expecting it. I don't know if that can be reduced with software. I think Google sometimes managed to pull off that kind of magic, but whether or not Xiaomi will. It seemed to struggle a bit in low light, and in fact night mode seemed to make things worse. So I would take a regular picture, no, I'd take a night mode picture and it looked quite dark. I'd take a regular photo and it actually looked a bit brighter. So I'm not quite sure what Xiaomi have done with their night mode, but I did find myself not bothering. Even if when it was dark I didn't bother with night mode. I think it just generally took better pictures regularly. The front facing camera is, and let's just give it a slide again, is 24 megapixels, one of them, and then the second one is a 2 megapixel depth sensor. Now, one thing I didn't show you, let's go into the settings just before we move on to the actual pictures of, so let's search for slider settings. So, oh yeah, so it's supposed to, you can have it do different things when you slide it open. There you go, so it's doing it now. So it kind of defaults to opening up your camera using the front facing camera, but you can just have it open tools and then you can go to the camera should you wish. Open, so you can have it open a different application. So if you use Instagram a lot or something like that, you can have it open that. I thought that's quite clever. In fact, that also reminds me, people were asking, if I know, let's come back, let's change. Ooh. So I am going to change it to none. You see that? Sorry, I selected none. I'm going to come back out because some people were asking in the comments of the unboxing, how does it play with things like Instagram? So we go into Instagram, of course it's hot girl on the first picture. So it actually tells you, look, push the screen down to open the camera. You do that and off we go. If you leave it on open the tools or whatever, it will open the camera or the tools. You have to get rid of them and you're still obviously there, you're back in Instagram, that's fine. So it's whether or not, if you're a big Instagram user or well, I mean, like I say, you can have it open straight into Instagram by opening the camera, whatever you want to do. So yeah, it plays fine with all the other sort of camera things. It just will tell you slide down the front and you do that and off you go. So on to the actual front-facing camera. As far as the portrait mode seemed quite good, no issues there really, and generally it was okay. But I mean, I did have one time when it was very strong light, it seemed to struggle when I had the light behind me with the lens facing me, which you don't really want to do. It really struggled. So I turned to face the light, which is where you're supposed to have, so the camera's got the light behind it. It kind of struggled then as well. So it seems that generally just with strong light it didn't cope as well as I might have liked. Video wise, I think I mentioned it does, well maybe I didn't actually, I think it does, fairly sure it is 4K. I've not written that spec down, but I'm fairly sure it's 4K. What it does do is 1080p at 960 frames per second, so it does slow motion. Super slow-mo seems okay, but when you select it, it basically says the last quarter of the recording will be the super slow-mo bit. So you start the video recording, you're waiting for it to get around to the last quarter. In my case, I then drop the leaves, and it's just quite an awkward, I kept missing it basically. Not the best implementation of it, but it is there, it is there. Now, the video itself though, generally seemed quite good. The optical image stabilization seemed pretty good. The colours, everything, it was generally was a reasonable image. The low light performance, interestingly, so I did most of my filming in 1080p 60 frames per second. I did a comparison to the OnePlus 6T in exactly the same conditions, and the OnePlus 6T really struggled in low light, whereas the Xiaomi Mi Mix 3, it was generally was okay. In fact, probably, you know, so it had the edge in that respect. So generally the video was pretty good. So the camera, okay, just a few odd things that sort of weren't quite right, but not bad for £500. I suppose not bad. Probably quite similar to the OnePlus 6T really in the quality, which is interesting because of the very similar prices. So then we come on to software, and this is where Xiaomi frustrate me. Why they do the things they do, I do not know. I do not know. I assume it's kind of an Eastern thing, and maybe Easterners like the way they do it. But so let's start off with just showing you that this one is based on Android version 9, and you can see it's using MIUI version 10, and generally it's actually reasonably nice looking. Their settings, they often confuse me. I don't know. An example would be, I suppose, when I'm doing my battery test, I need to change the sleep setting for the screen. That's everywhere else. That's in display. In Xiaomi, with Xiaomi, it's in lock screen. Which, I mean, I guess, because that's when it goes to the but it doesn't go to the lock screen. It does have things like, and I've not really used them on this one because I have used them before. Second space, so you can set up effectively like a whole second user. I mean, it can be used to obviously, and you register a different fingerprint to them. When you use that different fingerprint, it logs in as that second user, which I can imagine would actually be really quite helpful to some people. So that's quite good. I actually really like the gestures as well. So they're generally very smooth. If we go into things, we can go back by pulling them from the side. We can, if we go into one thing, we can hold up and switch to another thing. If we want to go back to that previous one, when we hold and we let go, it's generally all very smooth and slick. Where they seem to let it down is in the notifications. So you can see at the top there, I've got a few different notifications already. If I turn it off, always on display, nothing at all. In fact, I've not even, surely I should have even though I know I've got notifications, surely my LED should be blinking at this point. So then I go into my lock screen. Nothing at all. Really? Really? I have to go into the device and see, oh, there are some notifications. Oh, there they are. Really? Now, I'm going to try and do a test as well. So I've got my a different account open on a web browser. I'm going to send this phone, this account, a Hangout message. You might get a noise from, let's just close that. So 3, 2, 1, send. The screen lights up, so I've heard vibrations from other devices around the room. The screen's lit up, fine. No notification visible. Okay, we're going to go into the phone. There's not a Hangout message even there. We're going to go into Hangouts, and there's me telling you not to forget to subscribe. Look. So a few days back, my brother had messaged me about something. I had no idea. Now I know there might be some of you going, who uses Hangouts? Well, I do. My family does. For me, it's the best way. It's the best communication tool because if I'm using my computer or my browser, I get a notification. I can reply from the browser. No matter how many phones I've got, they're all on the same account. They all get that message. Why would I not use Hangouts? It's so much more versatile than something like WhatsApp. And this it doesn't even tell me that I've got a message. So I didn't know. It was like about an hour later that I noticed it when I opened a browser, and there was oh, right, okay. I don't get it. And then there are sometimes though that there have been sometimes over the last couple of days, and I've checked all the settings. I've checked that they're allowed, and I've checked that they're turned on. I've checked that details on lock screen. So if I get an email at some point, it will actually show the emails. That is one that works. That will show on the lock screen once, and then it won't be there again. If I unlock and then I close and then I go to lock screen, it won't be there again. And honestly, I've been through settings. I have seen other people with issues with their notifications. Some of them not showing this and the other. So I mean, I guess it's a bug because sometimes it works and other times it doesn't. But to me, that's just not acceptable. It's not acceptable. This is going back sort of 4 or 5 years when I remember buying Xiaomi phones and you had to manually install the Google Play Store on Google Play services. And you can understand that, well, yeah, maybe they're not going to work that well. Maybe the notifications, like all notifications, won't work that well. But we've moved on since then. This is a global device. They're selling these in the UK and the notifications don't work. I don't think that's acceptable. Anyway. So, I've talked about notification on a lock screen, setting hard to find. So I think I've been through. Oh, that's the other thing, and I almost don't want to say it because it's going to trigger everywhere else in the room, but OK Google does not work. So I don't know if you can see that back there. Cancel, I don't, forget it, turn off. It's just, I'm just dictating to it now. I don't know what it's going to come up with. And my phone lit up and is ready for me to talk. Well, I'm not surprised you don't understand it. I was not talking to you. Anyway, but yeah, it doesn't work yet on. So I don't know. Have they released the phone with the software not ready? Is MIUI 10 just not ready? I'm not sure, but whatever reason it is, it's not good. It's just not good. So yeah, that's the software in a nutshell. It's a shame because it actually looks quite nice now. MIUI 10 does look like. I mean, I'm not entirely sure how ringtones restored to normal. See, I'm not sure. Is that vibrate mode though? Or is that silent? Again, I don't really know because I don't really get notifications. So I don't know. I don't even know if there's a vibration mode. It's kind of weird. Anyway, so moving on to the battery, which is possibly one of the other slight issues. It's only 3200 milliamp hours. It's a Li-ion non-removable battery. 3200 is not a lot in this day and age. I mean, I guess a year or two back it wouldn't really have raised many eyebrows, but with the Note 9 coming out with 4000 milliamp hours, the Huawei Mate 20 Pro with 4200, this coming out with just 3200 is a bit, oh really, for a 6.4 inch AMOLED screen. And I mean, to be fair, let's see what I'm on now. So I came off charge at about 6 o'clock this morning. Oh yeah, so I'm using just a little line. Again, the software is quite customizable, but that looks to be about 60%. We can actually go into AccuBattery, probably the best way. Yeah, so we're at 59%. That's not bad. I've been off charge for, well, 11 hours, 11 and a little bit hours, and it's still got 59%. I think that's okay. If we scroll down to the bottom, it would tell me that if I've got about 6 3/4 hours of just all screen on time from fully charged, or I've got about 35 hours use of sort of combined use, so my usage. 35 hours, that's actually pretty good. That's plenty. I only need sort of 18 to 20 really, but it's good to know if I had to, I could probably go through a night and through most of the next day. But that screen on time is not great, and during my battery test, so my battery test is like an hour-long test where I play some video, then I have it reloading a page until the hour's up, and it scored just 87% on that, which isn't very good. That's quite low down. So I think it kind of gets by on its standby, which could be related to it not bothering to tell me when I've got notifications, because it's just shut everything down, even when I've told it not to. I've double-checked Hangouts. I've told it no battery management. But maybe that's how it's doing it, just by shutting everything down. Therefore, when the screen's off, it actually does really well. When the screen's on, it scores 87% in my test. It does have fast battery charging, so it's got Quick Charge 4.0, and it does have wireless charging, as I think I mentioned early on. So, once again, Xiaomi lifted my hopes. If you watch my unboxing, I was really high on this device. I was sort of, this thing seems great, I love it. I love the slide action, I love the screen, I love just the feel, the build quality. It's all really, really good. The hardware is fantastic. I mean, maybe a little bit of a bigger battery. But then the software just takes those hopes, screws them with a ball, and flings them. You know, why, Xiaomi? Why? I mean, yeah, the notification thing, I thought they'd moved on past it. I thought recently I've had no issues on this, so I'm sure the Mi A2 Lite, I didn't have any notification issues. The Redmi Note 5, I don't think I have notification issues. Why? How? Where have they come back from? I do like the sliding back for the camera. I think that's quite cool. But actually, it's generally not very practical. It's sometimes can be quite hard to do, you know, especially if you're using with one hand. I'm not a big fan that you have to press on the screen to do it. Really, I mean, I guess you can kind of do it from the edges. Or maybe because we have the sound off, but it does give like quite a funky, and you can change the noise it makes when it does it. Shling, like a sort of metallic shling noise, which is quite cool. So yeah, it's just not that practical. I do love the look of the screen without a notch or as we're going to see more of a pinhole or whatever they call it. Just the camera, just the cutout just around the camera lens. So I do love that, but I just don't think it's that practical. MIUI is definitely looking better these days. The camera is, I would go somewhere between okay and good. The screen I think is fantastic. The speaker is passable. Some people just, I think that might be a deal breaker because it's not stereo front facing, but for me, for my uses, yeah, it's okay. The battery, if you're a heavy user and you have the screen on a lot through the day, which I don't, my screen on time is normally sort of less than an hour in a day, but if you have a high screen on time, yeah, the battery is going to be a bit of an issue for you as well. But the deal breaker for me, plain and simple, is this notifications. It's just not acceptable. So I don't have them on my my Mate 20 Pro on the always on display, but they're always, oh, I haven't got it at the moment. They're always there on the lock screen. Then they're almost never there on the lock screen. Yeah, not good, not good. And that means well, yeah, just meaning that you have to unlock. I mean, that also applies to, if I turn my podcast back on, I'll turn the volume down a bit because I don't need that. So when I listen to a podcast in the morning, I turn the screen on, I can't control my podcast. I have to unlock to control it. So, yeah, great hardware, really good hardware. And I think, I mean, other people, they're sort of saying, oh, I've got no problems with the software notifications. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means they just don't use Hangouts and they don't mind they're not on the lock screen. I don't know, but to me, it's not acceptable. So those are my thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Please do leave them. I do read all of them, and I'll reply if you ask me a question. Hopefully, I think I normally reply. So do let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear them because it is an interesting device, if nothing else. It is an interesting and different device. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But for now, my name's Andy. I'll catch you all again soon. Well done, and thank you for making it to the end of the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, you might want to click the little fellow that should hopefully appear about here to subscribe. You may also want to check out some of my other videos, which are going to appear somewhere there. Also, come and have a look at my website, androidandy.uk. There is also a forum. Come and say hello on the forum. If you've got any questions about things or request me to review things or anything else, just come and have a chat on the forum.